Alright. Hey there guys, how's it going? Got another battle here for you from my Dwarven campaign that I recently started just to try to kind of get a feel for it. Went ahead and recorded this video because had an absolutely epic battle here, and I saved the replay for it. This is post-commentary, but it still felt like it was worth showing. Basically, it's a 2v4, but because of the size of some of the armies, might as well just be like a 2v3. I was playing as dwarves, and I was facing off against the vampire counts with their allies, the von Karsteins, and you're gonna see in just a minute why I saved this replay. So as you can see, the main vampire count army wasn't too terribly large. Now my reinforcing army is spawning behind them. However, the von Karstein's reinforcing army is spawning behind me. So what I decided to do right off the bat was focus on the army that was spawning behind me, because I figured that that was where the battle would be won, and it ended up being a good decision. I didn't end up spreading in the correct format, so as you can see here, like I'm pulling my Thunderers back and moving some more infantry units up front to support the center. I also mismicroed my miners with blasting charges. Probably could have done some more damage and avoid the friendly fire had I actually like focused them on some of the blobs instead of the banshee as soon as it ran onto the map. So got kind of like got like one good volley off with them with the satchel charges, but it really wasn't that useful. So because I figured that the Manfred army would actually like rush my starting army, I went ahead and just used my artillery as not only like a slowdown deterrent, but also as kind of like a bait just to kind of tie them up. I didn't expect from the artillery to actually survive the end of the battle. I just needed them to hold off the vampire count army as long as possible, because I had no idea how many reinforcements, or rather what quality of troops I was going to be up against with these particular armies that are reinforcing right now. But as you can see, it's just loads of infantry, loads of zombies, loads of spearmen, a lot of grave guard too. And so what I end up doing is I create this bottleneck, and I just try to use the skirmishers to just wreck them. You know, like I said, I didn't expect the artillery to have any real impact. I kind of just wanted them to slow down. As you can see, I have like an L shape happening where I'm using pretty much my general as like the holding the hinge, and he's a rune lord, so he's constantly going to be buffing the troops. I'm using that as like a focal point and just bracketing the reinforcing armies on the slope because I have the uphill advantage. And I'm just using that as like just as a holding tactic, because my original game plan was to get my reinforcing army to kill Manfred's army and then flank forward and support me. Now, the thing that sucks with having a reinforcing army as the dwarves is that they're fucking slow as shit. So I ended up having to do a lot more microing with my skirmishers than I thought. I played majority of this battle in slow-mo, to be honest, just so I could like move across the battlefield and micro everything. The biggest threat that I felt was just the sheer amount of terror causing that was all focused right here on the slopes. I mean, I got direwolves running around here, there's a graveguard, there's a banshee, a ghoul king general, and Vlad himself. I'm actually really impressed with how well the dwarves held. And you see right here, this I was not anticipating. I was not anticipating you'll see how they're like starting to peel back and go towards my reinforcing army. It's like the AI decided to prioritize like stopping my reinforcing army in the same way that I prioritized my artillery with stopping their army. And then you'll see that off in the distance there, the Vargas actually landed my artillery, but they really didn't commit because like I whittled them so much with my quarrelers, and I'm using my thunders right now to kind of like bait out the flanking units. So that's one thing that's great about the dwarven skirmisher units, is that they're pretty handy in a melee. Like if you need them to melee in a pinch, they can do a pretty solid job of it. Especially with thunder units, because of the armor piercing, those volleys do so much damage. You can usually use them to bait out flanking units on their own, regardless of their tier or wealth. Like, it doesn't matter if they're zombies or graveguard. Like, thunders can really hold their own. So now right here, the Vargas decided to peel off of my artillery because they weren't getting anywhere, and that allows my quarrelers to again focus fire on them. The Vargas tried to land in my rear lines, but it really doesn't work out for them because my quarrelers were guarding the back, so I was able to wipe them out pretty fast once they landed, even though they were the Devils of Schwarzhaven. And right here, my miners with blasting charges with this army are actually gonna do some pretty good damage on the Koningsting Stalkers, which are the regiment of renown for skeleton warriors. As you can see, they're the satchel charges flying out right now, and I also still had my artillery focusing on them so they were just getting hammered from both sides. My little ballista was focusing on the Vargwolf because that has bonus against large, and as you can see here in just a moment, all of my skirmisher fire is going to be focused on taking on this Vargwolf as well. I brought up the unit card, so at the bottom left hand corner you can see his health. See how it's like kind of regenerating and going down and going up and going down? It's because the Vargwolf has regeneration, and the good thing is that he doesn't have high armor, so if you do decide to focus fire him, you can usually knock him out pretty fast, but the issue is, of course, tying him up so that you can just focus fire him without him just mauling your troops to pieces. So right here, you're going to see that I start focus firing him. It's kind of unseen from this camera angle, but there's some Thunderers that I have bringing around the rear for this army that are going to be focusing firing. Again, the Vargolf has like not much armor and it has relatively low leadership, so once that leadership crumbles, he's really easy to kill. Thunder is just, yeah, like I said, I brought him around the side and just focus fired him. This battle is actually not going to take too long because, like I said, over here, this is the grind fest. This is just the mosh pit, and it's honestly where the dwarves do best. I'm using, like I said, I already took control of that flank with the Thunderers by using them to kind of suppress. My Quarrelers are actually quickly running out of ammunition, so I'm actually using them as just to focus fire their skirmisher units. You'll see there's like 2 units of skeleton archers, and they're trying to like anti-skirmish me, I guess. And it's around this point that I decided to turn my artillery around and just kind of let it fire at will. And this ends up being a really good decision on my part. Even though I take the risk of friendly fire, because of the losses that I was taking already, because just the sheer amount of zombies and undead that were attacking my line, it really didn't make that big of a difference. The casualties were horrendous, I'll let you know that once we get to the final battle screen, but it was just... It ended up being a good decision to let the artillery fire at will because it really hurt the leadership of the undead, and it also whittled down some pretty thick units as far as removing their HP. Right here, I'm trying to just finish off the Vampire Lord because one of the best ways to deal with any AI army is to remove the enemy general as quickly as possible. The only issue is that like Vlad and the Ghoul King are really hard to kill when they're in the midst of all their troops, so I needed to get at least 1 Lord kill. That's why I was focusing on that with the other armies so strongly. Now you notice that my Quarrelers run out of ammunition, and the moment I realize that they've run out of ammunition, I immediately send them into melee combat. Now this is because that line, as you can see, like the tide of undead was just so massive. And this is another great thing, like I mentioned earlier, about the dwarves having pretty solid skirmishers that can also do decent melee. Like I just needed some more bodies to shoal up that line just to keep the vampires at bay, because they're not able to disengage. They could have, a player probably would have disengaged and gone after my Thunderers to prevent the flank happening that I end up pulling off. But that being said, my whole tactic was just to bracket this left side of the flank and just tear them to pieces. Because the Quarrelers run out of ammunition before they get finished off the skeleton archers, I'm using my Thunderers to do the job. And then as soon as they do that, I'm just going to start peeling into this left flank here, and you'll see just how big of an effect that has in just a moment. So meanwhile, these Thunderers are firing off. They're tired already because they've just been super active. But during this time, I'm going to actually get all of the melee troops from this reinforcing army and just start like moving them towards the main engagement, because there's really no sense in them chasing off the that general. At this point, it should only be the skirmishers that are focus firing him. But the thing with Thunderers is that their line of sight, they have a very low arc as far as their fire arc, so they have to have a clean line of sight, or else they'll be doing friendly fire if they shoot at the target that you tell them to. So that's another reason why I do it. You can kind of see like the Quarrelers are just throwing shit at this Vampire Lord. Like his HP is dropping like pretty significantly. He has a long ways to go before he can get to actually close the gap. I think he was going for the second unit of artillery, but at this point, the Grudge Throwers, the Thunderers are now going to get like a pretty clean line of sight, and once they open up their volley, it's just going to rip him to shreds. Like he has like already 1,000 health, and it's going to drop in almost no time. Like I also have my ballista focus firing him, and just like that, probably took less than 10 seconds of focus fire from the skirmishers of the dwarves to just kill that Vampire Lord. So the moment that happens, there's a leadership penalty, and because I now have the Thunderers kind of flanked and just tearing open this flank, it's gonna start the tide of the battle is gonna quickly turn in my favor. Like I said, the hinged where I have my general place is just really thin right now, and so that's another reason why I'm like kind of I'm trying to do as much damage as possible with my skirmishers and preserve them, because I've just lost so many infantry troops. I've lost so many models just holding this horde at bay. And like, if you look at just at the ground at all the carnage and all the strewn zombie bodies and even Dawi bodies, it's just like the amount of carnage on this battle is just insane. I think that's an indication of the heck or Danse Macabre going off for the Vlads, for the Von Karsteins. There's just a lot of Graveguard, a lot of zombies, a lot of units that cause terror and are like, it's not that they're hard to kill for dwarves, it's just they take so long, and dwarves don't have the numbers that they have. Again, the freaking Grudge Thrower just came in clutch there, just knocked out a couple crypt ghouls there. Now at this point, I pulled my general out, even though because I need him to keep the leadership high. I need him to keep buffing these troops. The AI tries to send the Graveguard Spear unit to negate out my Thunderers, but like I said, I was playing slow mo, so I was really like keeping an eye out on all of my micros, trying to make sure that I retain as many troops as possible. Anytime you skirmish troops, it doesn't matter if they're dwarves. Like I said, the dwarf skirmish units are pretty beneficial because they can actually do decent in melee, but doing decent in melee doesn't mean that they're exceptional or proficient at melee. And Thunderers are not, especially against Graveguard, Thunderers are not a good matchup. I would not, I mean, just look at these bodies, man, it's just insane. But it's just one of those things where you have to be aware of what your strategy is and sticking to it, and you have to keep your valuable units. Like, I can replace Dwarf Warriors all day, but Thunderers, especially Thunderers with good XP and great volleys, are hard to come by. And my Thunderers, in my opinion, if you don't use all of your ammunition with your skirmish unit before they go down, you haven't properly used your skirmisher units. That's the whole point of your skirmisher units, is to buy time, do as much damage from as far away as possible, and then you can send them off to die. Like, that's pretty much what you should be doing with any like skirmisher unit that you do have. Thunderers, like I said, they're super powerful. Like, they just wiped out that Graveguard unit in like point flat, and they still had, it only took like maybe 2 volleys. At this point, my reinforcing melee troops are going to come in, so this right here is going to pretty much secure my victory, because with all this extra Dwarven armor and unit models just piling in, the vampires are not going to have any chance of breaking through. So, like I said, it's a slight like uphill advantage for me. I mean, downhill advantage for me. Like, I'm on the higher part of the hill, but it's not significant enough for me to like just charge down and just break them. Because I can't push through that horde. There's just too many of them. So what I'm gonna be doing here now is I'm gonna have skirmishers on both flanks, and my skirmishers, like I said, the skirmishers are gonna be what wins this battle. As you can see there, I'm actually positioning my Thunderers, like I'm individually positioning them so that I can have just a clean, just clean space to fire into the rear, and then over on the opposite end with the reinforcing army, I'm going to have the same thing happen. I'm going to bring my Thunderers just right on the rear, so there's going to be 5 units of Thunderers just opening up in the rear, and then the Quarrelers that have ammunition are just going to start kind of hitting from the flank, because they have that larger arc, like I said. It's around this point where I started like kind of relaxing, because there were no more enemy reinforcements coming, and I think the AI like used most of its winds of magic. Like I said, like if you just look at the massive Dwarven bodies I have now piled on the main line, there's really just no way for the vampire counts to negate that. I probably could have done with calling off the artillery at this point. Really didn't really need it, and it would have probably caused some unnecessary casualties. But I was more focused on microing the actual Thunderers and getting them single targets before I actually, before I worried about artillery. At this point, the Vampire's leadership is suffering greatly, and because a lot of the units are, deteriorating from the lack of leadership, I'm actually going to focus fire on Vlad now with these 2 units of Thunderers that are in the back. Now, I just want you to watch. This is what I'm talking about with Thunderer's capability. Like, with like 2 volleys, they can take off 1,000 HP off of a hero lord, even one as powerful as Vlad. And that's crucial. Like, it's honestly one of the most important aspects of, like, taking out the enemy general, is getting a clean line of sight with your powerful skirmishers or your elite infantry and just bogging him down and killing him. Especially when he's out in the open like that, it's the best opportunity, and because as soon as he dies, the rest of his army is going to crumble fairly swiftly. He even tried to do a last minute cast there, and it just to no avail. So now the army deteriorates. It's only the heroes that are left. It's the Strigoi Ghoul King hero. He has 107 kills. You'll see it on the bottom left-hand corner. The Banshee has like 56 kills, and I mean they're gonna last a little bit longer than the rest of the army, but not by much. It's just incredible, like how powerful the vampire hero units can be. Like just single-handedly, they can wipe out entire units. I decided to call off the obviously the skirmisher fire because I didn't want like too much more friendly fire going on, and this is just a matter of mopping them up. But this was this was just like an ideal, almost picture perfect grind fest of how the dwarves play. And if you look at these kills, like one of my dwarf with great weapons, 400 kills, 300 kills for the other one. Oh my gosh, we go to the skirmish units, 280, 280, like almost 300 apiece, like 200 for all the quarrelers, 200 for the grudge thrower. Like you don't get these kind of numbers like on a normal battle against the AI. Like it's just insane. Like this army like didn't even really do much. I actually lost more troops than I probably should have, but like just the amount of damage that went on, like I had 3,200 troops against their estimated like 5,400, and it's just madness. Like their grave guard just, oh man, the grave guard did pretty good, but that's it. I hope you enjoyed the replay. Hope you got to learn a little bit of how to beat the AI, especially grinding with the dwarves, and see you next time.